Hey, in this lesson we will discuss C-strings or character sequences, which are basically arrays of characters which are terminated by the null character. We will also discuss characters in a bit more detail, and the ASCII table, and the fact that we have specific codes that represent specific characters. We will also discuss the C++ string class, which basically is a wrapper class that manages a C-string. For example, in this illustration we have two standard strings on the stack. In the main function we go and instantiate the standard string, and those will then manage objects on the heap. Now those objects will be the character strings which are managed by the string object, and the string class contains many handy member functions that we can use to operate on the string that it manages. Now in most other programming courses and books that you'll find, the standard string is covered earlier on. So it would typically be covered relatively early on. So in the Model C++ 101, for example, it would be covered relatively early on in the module, and that's because most of those courses use it in the explanations on the objects, such as object-oriented programming, classes, and structs. But I've decided to push it a bit later, and that'll make it easier for you to understand certain things that we'll discuss in the lesson. And of course, at this point you already have a familiarity with object-oriented programming, so you are not confused on the topic of member function invocations and all of that, and the difference between a regular function and a member function, and various other things that you'll see pop up as we go along throughout the lesson. Another reason for me discussing standard strings a bit later on in the course is that you often find that many companies introduce their own string class. So for example, with the Qt or Qt, they have the Q string, and in Unreal Engine you also have different ways of manipulating strings with the macros that they use. And you'll also find that many of the member functions that we'll discuss for the standard string, those will be available in the string implementations from the other companies that I mentioned, such as Qt and the Qt or Qt framework. For example, you have an append member function in the standard string, but you also have an append member function in the Q string from the Qt framework. As we'll see, we can have all sorts of issues when dealing with character strings or C strings, which are from the C language. And that is why the standard C++ wrapper class was created. Working with character sequences and the standard string may not be all that exciting, but it's important because, as I mentioned, the fundamentals that we discuss here can be applied when you switch over to using the Qt framework, for example, or whether you build some game in Unreal Engine, for example, as well, or whatever other framework you might be using.